Happy New Year, everyone. Time of empowered virtue and empowered non-virtue.
Yeah, we didn't mention that.
We'll start with Great Blazing Bliss on page 5. In English, this is an invocation to the energies of the universe to empower our realization. Om Ahum great bliss, blazing power, palace where wisdom ones know bliss and emptiness, blissful lotus ones with no wanting, great glory shines from there. True form Amitabha Dorje Lokesh, Lord compassion, passionate, Lord master of world and peace, power Heruka outshines all things. Oyeshe Bendra Warahi, Dem choked is our king, great treasure. Use Rigche Marus, all mudras, high low dancing in bliss emptiness. Wielding Dak and Daki host, new no seen and empty as the same. You dance your Vajra form, shakes 3 worlds, your laugh and ceaseless speech rouse 3 realms. Red light rays suffuse all worlds and peace, and gather world peace essences. Grant the 2 feet our supreme desire, passion of your own heart mind. With great Vajra hooks and lassos you bind to great bliss all you know and see. Play in the endless magic net like sesame pods burst open with 3 roads power, God host vast array. Bless and grant us with respect I pray. For unhindered power in all feats high and low that I desire. And refuge is the source of our guidance, source of protection, and ultimately what we wish to realize. It's on page 12. In 3 real jewels, 3 root bliss-filled ones, channels, winds, bright orbs, this Bodhi mind. Essence, nature, moving, love mandal, until full Bodhi I seek refuge. Gunjoksum Yadeshik Tawasum, Zalung Tigle Rangshin Jangjubsem, Rangshin Tukche Gingorla, Jangjub Yimbo Pardu Kyapsuchi. In 3 real jewels, 3 root bliss-filled ones, channels, winds, bright orbs, this Bodhi mind. Essence, nature, moving, love mandal, until full Bodhi I seek refuge. Oh, like moons in water, sights deceive us. We ever roam bound in cyclic chains. So all may rest in their clear mind sphere. I raise Bodhi through boundless states. Oh, not so nang wachu. Zunregi, Korwa Lugu Gyundu Kyambedo. Ursel Ying Sung El So Cheer, Seme Shing Angne Semgedo. Oh, mountains in water, sights deceive us. We ever roam bound in cyclic chains. so all may rest in their clear mind sphere. I raise Bodhi through for boundless days. Kyabdagyawanam dakir me be gadin sundentin chen lama je fixing your me tupten gat sola dep sonyam lantar chin show. And is the recorder on? It says REC.
Shouldn't there be a red light?
If the handle is not pulled down. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
very superficial cars.
So I'm going to actually review tonight what we did last night, because this is so basic and so important. And we'll do some practice. The main points to understand are as follows. Without any training, we're engaged in what can be called passive attention. Basically, anything that grabs us, moves us, takes our minds along with it. So we see a flower and we immediately start thinking of, well, I saw some flowers like this at my friend's wedding, and then there's my friend, and they haven't called me recently, and maybe if they called me, we could go somewhere, like maybe shopping. Oh, that reminds me, I've got to pick up some bread at Kroger's. And, you're just sort of passively absorbed in the chain of reactivity and associations. That's sort of an emotionally neutral chain, but it can also be a very, very intense chain, So I look at the flowers and then notice that you're not looking at me, and it's really important that you look at me, and you probably don't love me, and my mother didn't love me the way I wanted to be loved, and I hate my mother, and I hate you, and I'll probably never talk to you as long as we live, and if you do talk to me now, I'm going to bite your face off, and we have a fight. Welcome to life with all of us. I mean, we're all involved in these associative patterns. We can laugh at them when we're calm and collected, but who hasn't, snapped at someone they love and said horrible things because some very funny bone in their elbow was hit, and some really great vulnerability wasn't stimulated. We're all like that, and we all are in a way victims to our passive attention. So active attention is we place our mind on the flower, and a thought comes up of, oh, there was my friend's wedding, but I'm still on the flower, and just let that come up and go. And then, oh, well, there's another thought of, I haven't seen my friend, but I'm intent on the flower, and I'm resting on the flower. I've placed my mind there, and now I'm resting there. And then there's another thought of, I could meet my friend for shopping, and I don't get absorbed in that. That's active attention. In a way, active attention is really we could say it's the fundamental tool for the practice of sutra and tantra. Active attention could be called mindfulness. Sometimes it's called mindfulness, but it's really attending to something. There are a lot of different ways of cultivating active attention, and a lot of different ways of cultivating mindfulness. In this particular approach, which is seen to understand to give us some autonomy over the reactivity patterns that we all are faced with, we use something that's very, very common, namely the breath. We're not trying to alter the breathing whatsoever. We're paying a little more attention to the out-breath than to the in, but not to the point of altering the rhythm or anything. We're just sort of a little bit more into that sense of going out. We're sitting in a comfortable, stable position. For some, that might be on the floor. For some, that will be on a chair. For some, it'll be comfortable to sit without support. Maybe you need your back supported. You can check that out for yourself. We keep our eyes a little bit open without really seeing. Some people will call that soft focus, so they might be down. It's not like you're taking in the visual information. Of course, we're used to just sort of seeing, so initially that's going to be the case. But you want your attention to be internal to the process of breathing. And, there will be visual stimulus, but you're not paying that much mind. Part of what's then occurring is that you're developing a capacity so that in daily life you can cultivate attention, you can have your eyes open, but you don't have to, say, boss, excuse me, I'm not going to meditate. How can you work like that? But, if you're used to meditating and stuff's going on and you just want to take a breather, okay, so you're watching your breath, your eyes are open, you may be looking down, you may get to a point where you're comfortable, your eyes are up and open, but you're with yourself, and your boss can be thinking whatever they're thinking, but you're not doing something absurd within that context. You're there, but you're internally centered. So we place our attention on the breath, and then we rest in the breathing. And it's very, very important. There really are a lot of different ways of cultivating meditation. And this particular style that we're talking about here, which will be very, very useful in all of the practices we do, is to be able to take something like the breath and first intentionally set your attention with it. You are with the breath. You're really in the breath. And to the extent that you can be really sensing fully in your body the breathing, the better the attention will be versus, I'm standing 30 feet away from myself and I'm observing as some really big distant observer my breathing. Really be with the sense of the breathing in the body. And then we are resting with the breath. Very, very important to have this sense of resting. So you're not just squeezing. You're setting and then resting with the breath. You're in a restful attentiveness. It's a really fine-tuned state. You're not just tightening. You're tightening a little bit to place your mind on the breath, and then you're loosening once there. And I said last night, but I'll repeat for those of you who haven't been here, we often talk about Majik Lapdun, who's represented to the most right-hand tanka there. Her essential teaching, tighten with tightness, loosen with looseness, this is the essence of the view. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever when you say it. And it's very hard to hear in Tibetan and understand what it means. But as we practice, we recognize that there's over and over a kind of tightening and then a loosening and then the essence of the view. And of course the view is something we've become more and more familiar with. And the view, it's important to say, is not, again, a dualistic view. It's really a mode of being. It's a being knowing. All of our modes of knowing, unless we're really, really spiritually endowed at birth, are dualistic and distant. And so, I'm thinking the wall is out there and I am here, and Claire and Anne are there. Everything is a dualism. But the view involves a kind of knowing which is a knowing being, or a being knowing. Maybe being knowing would be the better way to say it. It's a kind of knowingness that is synonymous with being, and there's no sense of here and there. It's just a being knowingness. And so that is something that one arrives at with practice, and one can use the kind of practice we're doing of attending to the breath and then resting with the breath. This is tremendous training for coming into being knowing. So in this particular mode of practice, and I have to emphasize, you have to be clear that there are so many different ways of teaching meditation, attention, concentration, and or mindfulness. And whoever you study with, you should practice what they say, because there are skills and gains and values and benefits and virtues in every specific way that you're taught, but they are different. And so this is different from what you might hear in a Theravada teaching on concentration. It's different from what you might hear on a Theravada teaching on mindfulness. This may be different from what we do on some Tuesday nights here. This is a very, very specific approach that we're teaching right now, but a very, very important one. So here, if we're focusing and then resting on the breath, sound occurs, but we're resting with the breath. Thoughts occur, we're resting with the breath. Just allow all that stuff to be clouds in the sky. It's not affecting the sky. Feelings arise, but we're with our breath. So if we're able to maintain our focus and rest with the breath, and a variety of distractions come up, no problemo. We're not counting those actually as distractions. But then there are going to be events where you actually fall completely into passive attention with what comes up, where you will get lost and you will not be resting in the breath, but you will be thinking of, well, tonight there's this event I want to go to, or this TV show, or this person, or this work, whatever. Or tomorrow or yesterday there was this event, somebody said so-and-so, I should have said so-and-so, I really know how to get back to them now. Or, there was this place 5 years ago, or this person 5 years hence, whatever. We all have our stuff that's going to attract us. And sometimes it's a fairly familiar routine, but sometimes we might, during the course of meditation, have a memory from when we were 4 years old and we haven't thought this thought for 30 years or 40 years or 60 years. It can happen very easily, actually. And we get absorbed in it. I'm there. Oh, my mom and my sister. And we were playing. And it was snow. And it was like I'm in that snow. And, you're gone. And at a certain point, you realize you were just gone, which is not a point to be trifled with. It's actually worthy of quite a lot of consideration and contemplation. And I won't talk too much about it right now, but I just would flag that it's worthy of a lot of attention that we do come out of our distractions. And if you wanted to contemplate an interesting question, you could contemplate who becomes undistracted. Just like that. Who is it that becomes undistracted? So that's just a little bit of a side contemplation and a side issue, but it's a pretty interesting question if you start thinking about it. So there you are, you emerge out of your distraction and you're aware. And so in this particular meditation, you'll just very gently, internally, very softly, just say distraction, distraction. You've emerged. You're not pulling yourself out. You have emerged. This is just flagging that emergence. Yeah, a lot of people will teach meditation and will not notice this mysterious moment of emerging from distraction. And they'll say, you come out of distraction. Consider that a little bit. There's no agency in coming out of distraction. So you emerge out of distraction. You label it distraction, distraction, just to sort of really create a little bit of distance with the distraction. Exhale, and then resume placing the mind with the breath and resting with the breath. Other stuff comes up, fine, comes up. You're still resting with the breath. If you get lost, which you will, we all will, when you recognize you've emerged, distraction, distraction, breathe out, place your mind, and then rest. Are there any questions about that process? Anything whatsoever? There are no bad questions. Where's the microphone?
I've been wondering recently in my own, practice of mindfulness. I guess I used to kind of conflate, tightness and looseness with the mind being, sort of restless or all the way down to like sinking mind. And I'm not sure if that's right anymore. Do you have any thoughts on that?
There can be some ways in which when you tighten your mind, you might get excited, and there might be some ways when you loosen your mind, you may get dull and sunken. That's not what tighten with tightness or loosen with looseness is referring to. Those would be deviations and pitfalls from tightening and loosening. So just as if you tighten your guitar string too tight and you break the string, or if you loosen it so loosely that it goes twang, that's too loose. This is much more refined in terms tighten the guitar string or loosen it. We're talking about within the short parameters of making it really very, very fine-tuned. But most of us beginners, namely in the first 50 years of meditation, are going to swing towards tightening too tightly and loosening too loosely. And there's no way to not do that, just as there's no way to learn how to walk without falling. You can't. And sometimes we'll get adults who want to learn something and they're terrified of making a mistake, quote, making a mistake. And, Milton Erickson, the great hypnotherapist, would say, how is there a mistake in learning? You have to make errors in learning. You can't learn without making mistakes. You can't learn the balance of mind without over-tightening and over-loosening. It's just part of the process. And in a way, one could say that meditation is a body learning. And really what we do at Dawn Mountain is mostly, in a way, a kind of body and energetic learning that is not a mere cognitive learning. So you could describe to someone until you were blue in the face, you've got to balance your mind, just as you could tell somebody how to do a great serve in tennis. But unless you, or ice skate in a balanced way. They're all very, very comparable. Or play a musical instrument. Unless you get your body involved and start having body memory of what it means to be balanced, you are never going to understand the whole process. And until you've overserved or underserved or overskated or underskated or over-tightened your mind or over-loosened your mind, your body will never understand in a natural, easy manner how to set your attention. And when you do it over and over and over again, then you do come to understand. Your body understands, and you don't have to give yourself a whole bunch of lectures at that point. You just as almost all the skills you already have, like getting on a bicycle. We all remember, bicycle, we're over tilting or under tilting. Then your body knows. It's really a body learning, and in many ways we don't emphasize that enough, that all of these skills are really body and energetic learnings. And they take time and a lot of misstep. And in a way that's not even missteps, we just need to go through the training and doing it. And that is part of the reason why it's so important to actually practice in an ongoing manner, in a regular manner. Because it's a skill, and it's a skill that really benefits from regular habitual learning. Are there any other questions? Any questions are welcome. Yes, Kath in the back. Back to your left.
Yeah. One of the things I'm not understanding.
Try to put it to your mouth this way. Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm not understanding is we're starting with meditation as a way into the practice. Is that what can you go to first principles just a bit? Because there's the philosophy, and then there's the practice that leads you into a deeper understanding. I'm sort of, this is with question mark at the end. And then there's the practice that takes you through that deeper understanding.
Well, the philosophy that I'm stating is very, very simple. I'm summarizing it fairly quickly, and that is, without drawing out a whole large philosophy, I'm drawing sort of a micro philosophy, is that absent training and attention, we will be subject to passive attention, and our attention will be controlled by habit patterns that inevitably, absent a lot of training for most of us, lead us into a lot of trouble. Our passive habit patterns that we bring into our adult life tend to lead most people to crash and burn at some point because they don't work.
We need a class. If you take the basic tenets, though, of the Buddhism, let's start with Four Noble Truths. Let's just put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to connect the act of meditation and the degree to which you mature with that meditation to the tenets of Buddhism, and how I'm going to tap into them. I mean, I'm trying to put this in a whole framework in my mind.
The tenets of Buddhism are as follows. There is suffering, namely, you crash and burn. There is a cause, and very, very simply stated, what is that cause? There is some experience, and you react poorly. That's the cause. The cause is you react poorly. There is a cessation of that process. There is an end. What leads to that end? Ethical behavior, focusing the mind, and understanding. focusing the mind leads to understanding, and focusing the mind allows us to prevent the habitual patterns that lead us into suffering from occurring. So part of the path is developing attention. The Eightfold Path, which is the fourth noble truth, is developing attention. Okay? And that will allow wisdom to arise eventually, but it will also prevent reactivity. It will allow the cycle of reactivity that leads to suffering to reverse and lead to the cessation of suffering. Did you get that?
I did, amazingly.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. So, we're going to do this in as long as the droid survives, which is may not going to be very long. We'll try to make it 30 minutes. Yeah. And we're going to do it in 5-minute intervals. Game? So we start. Just place your attention on the breath, on the experience of breathing. And then rest with the breath until you're distracted. Then note the distraction. Exhale. Return to placing your mind on the breath and resting with the process of breathing. Experience the breath with your body. Allow your eyes to be somewhat open. So just take a brief break for a few seconds. And then reset yourself with the breathing. So take a little break. few seconds. And resume. So take a few seconds to just break your attention. Rest it. Maybe stretch a little bit. And once again, settle your attention on the breath and then rest with the breath. Rest the attention there. take a few seconds to rest and change. And then set your mind on your breath and then rest it there. Take a little break. And then reset your attention and then rest in the breath. take a minute to just sort of feel how you are. Maybe you have some sense of where you are now and where you were when we began. Just sort of take that in and allow yourself to just let the effect of practicing attention permeate your body, your mind, your soul. Your whole being. Relax. So is there any question on what we did in terms of how to do it and why we did it and how it could affect you? Any question whatsoever. They're all good questions. Got one? Got one.
So my experience was interesting. Yesterday when I asked about the relationship between the awareness and the reactivity, I've just been kind of thinking about that, kind of feeling into it. And I guess what I experienced tonight seemed different in that yesterday it was like I was really triggered and I was experiencing a lot of obsessive kind of triggering thoughts and, kind of with a kind of affective component. But the awareness, I think the example I gave, the awareness seemed to be loosening the grip of the thoughts. But tonight, what I experienced was kind of different. I don't know whether it was a failure. I didn't do the practice as well, but I experienced the awareness as, like, I had a sense of the awareness as kind of a more expansive sense of the self, of myself. But at the same time, it was almost like the opposite happened, whereas the kind of obsessive thoughts seemed to kind of like really condense, so that there was a kind of dual experience of a kind of expansive awareness, but then within that kind of experience there was a kind of, like energetically, phenomenologically, like a condensed thickness that felt that it was a kind of phenomenological component of the obsessive thoughts. The narrative was just kind of spinning, kind of out.
Where was the experience of knowing that you were breathing and all of that?
Well, I was back and forth. It was kind of back and forth. Like my attention was, dropping into the breath, but at the same time, and then it was kind of getting kind of more stuck in the content of the obsessive thought. But I guess so. Yeah, I was kind of moving, definitely. And then sometimes there was a sense of more of the totality, where there was a sense of the breath and the obsessiveness. But I guess just what really struck me was it was just almost like the obsessive thought was kind of like, it was almost like the congealment was kind of condensing and condensing. So it just felt like this kind of, like, I don't know, it's kind of, am I explaining it well? I don't know.
Right. So, I mean, it's important to be able to see that, and to the extent that it's all practice, and there's no expectation that won't be happening.
It was like, I guess I'm just curious. It was like yesterday. It was like the awareness kind of like like got inside of the like congealment and loosened it.
Mhm.
And this time it was more like the congealment stayed congealed, but there was a wider holding for it.
Right, and so
So-
welcome to a
yeah.
variety of Nyam meditative experiences.
Yeah.
They will be endless. They will be endless.
Like the thoughts.
And I think it's important to be clear and to, within it all, recognize the central principle of this particular practice is, am I placing on the breath and resting with the breath?
Yeah, I guess.
And everything else is just occurring. So really, in this particular meditation, it doesn't mean that there aren't other systems and very, very excellent other systems and ways. Here we're a little bit more interested in the maintenance of the focus on the breathing. So to the extent that you get very, very attuned to and specific about the nature of the congealment or the nature of the obsession, you're doing something a little bit different in this particular instance.
Yeah, actually, as you say that, I just realized that there was a kind of almost like a sense of not exactly a manipulation, but there was some like desire that the awareness would like bring some freedom to the congealment. I'm just wondering whether that kind of shaped my experience.
Well, I mean, I think it's a very, very important presupposition to be in touch with, to be catch, really. And in this practice, I would repeat, the main focus is placing and resting. And, it's a little bit like, I think it's unfortunate they've taken the compulsories out of the ice skating in the Olympics, because really with meditation, we really do have a lot of compulsories, and then there are sort of the free form. And in a way, we all have a certain kind of distaste for the compulsories. And one of the great realizations is how much those compulsories can bring us if we do them consistently. So really, in an ideal world, people who are practicing would do some of this to the tune of maybe 30 minutes a day, every day, at a time that works for them, and a place that's comfortable, that's set aside for this purpose, and see over time how it affects us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I appreciate the value of it. I realize I had an ulterior motive of freedom of my obsessive thoughts.
Right, well, welcome to the human race, and we all have ulterior motives. And that's part of, to the extent that the frame of meditation can stay fixed, we can become much, much more aware of many, many different kinds of processes in ourselves.
Thanks.
Gloria.
Yes, I wanted to ask, is it counterproductive to do different kinds of, let's say I do this now when I come to practice, and then in the morning I do another kind of meditation, at noon I do another kind of meditation. Is that not, is conflicting, or? It's
not conflicting, and hopefully we will in the not too distant future be talking with people personally about what they're doing and where every person is and how they're arranging their meditation, and we would talk with you then about what you are doing. There's nothing wrong with doing a variety of different meditations. There is something very, very beneficial to doing one or two meditations with some consistency and some depth.
Thank you.
Is there a question somewhere? Yes. Simon?
You mentioned at the beginning about emphasizing the exhalation, your attention on the exhalation.
Yes.
I was wondering if there was a particular reason for that, as I tend to get kind of caught up in that controlling aspect of it.
Yeah, so be aware of the controlling, and it's not about controlling. It's just the slightest, everything is slight here. It's just the slightest little bit more of attention to exhale. There's probably a lot of different reasons. One is that there seems to be a kind of quieting associated with exhalation. questions. Tiffany?
When you're concentrating on the breath or focusing on the breath, is it bad if you're kind of speaking in your mind saying in, out, because I started to focus on the words
Yeah.
and the rhythm of it,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure if I was really focusing on my breath or just on the actual rhythm.
Yeah. It's a great question. There are all sorts of aids that are suggested in mindfulness of the breathing as it's traditionally taught, where you can use in, out. Sometimes we count 1 in, 1 out, or it's just 1 on the in-breath and then 2 on the in-breath, up to 10. Sometimes it's 1 in, 1 out, up to 21. There are a lot of different systems. In this particular system, and in particular because we're really trying to orient to the felt sense of it, if you could just stay with the felt sense, it's not bad. You know, we really hope that people don't beat themselves up. It's so tempting for all of us to.
It was beginning to worry me because I was lulling myself asleep.
You were lulling yourself asleep?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, sleep is one of the issues that come up for all of us. If you could let go of the in, out, and just really see if you can be with this experience of it, for this, I would prefer it. It would just be a preference. But it's a wonderful question. Other questions? Doubts, hesitations? Didn't work, did work? Anything that you want to report or say something about? Yes, Gloria.
I felt it worked very well with me.
Here you go. Hold on.
At the beginning, I was focusing outwards. You know, like my eyesight was on the carpet, and I was having visions on the carpet. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So through the process, attention, I would call me back to the breath, and I noticed how, I became closer and closer
Wonderful.
to focusing on the breath, and realized how much outer oriented I am.
Wonderful.
So
Great.
it worked good with me today.
Yeah, and so learning that we can be internally oriented even though our eyes are open is a wonderful learning. Terrific. So I noticed that we're about to end the CD, and I know that the time is also there, so you can end the CD. We will do our prayers. Thank you so much. Page 22, Sharing Merit in English. By this good may I swiftly once become a great guru, lead all beings, everyone, to reach to that very ground. And long life for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, on page 25. In a pure land ringed by snow mountains, source of bliss and benefit for all, powerful Denzin Gyatso Chenrezi, lotus feet please stay hundreds of years, fill vast space with your activities. And the long life prayer for Adzom Pela Rinpoche. Om Swasti. Flawless refuge sources give blessings, teacher, protector, kind Dharma Lord, Jume Tupten Gyatso wondrous good, lotus feet ever, deeds everywhere. And we do Namo Guru, and then on page 26, and then we go to page 27, Namo Guru, top of page 27. Glorious, wise K, bright Sun, and kind Son, now that your work here has subsided, Please think of our pain, sad suffering. We pray you quickly take form again. Om Swasti and Harvey like the waxing moon. May your life and flourish grow. Through the threefold skillful pundit's deeds, live long benefiting all you meet. By the true power of two Vajra truths, 3 jewels, 3 roots, Buddha's compassion, faithful Sangha and aspiration, may this prayer be realized at once. We'll do the prayer for Dawn Mountain on page 32. May there be a great fine new temple, great seat for all high practice learning, which having spread in all directions, male and females, yogis everywhere, practice and further the teachings there. Why don't you
Jennifer P. Nam, Jenny Piers, Devon's mother in Bardo, Ann Clegg, Mrs. Ann Clegg, Amanda Clegg. Thank you. Bethany, Bill, Michael, Lola's mom in the Bardo, Claire for a job, Fernando Lopez for healing, Kiki, Anna, Ophelius, Henzi, Teresita, Martha, Geraldo, Yongyen Mai, Amy Jia, Haley Mosier for a job, Tina Borja, Rosa Glenn Riley and family, Emily for a job, Matt for a job, John, Shirley, Arlene, Yolanda, Jen, Andreas Reinhardt, Celia Martinez, Andre Alexander, Jennifer, Jenny Glegg, David Garcia, Bardo, Andres, Kiki, Anna, Ophelius, Heinze, Teresita, Fernando, Gerardo, J. Ruff, Bartlett, Linda Bartlett, Charles Fontenot Sr., deceased, and his family, Martin Espinosa, Candy, Clark, Mom, Nena, Bob, Elizabeth, Dean, can't quite read it, Gabrielle, Isabel, Gina, Richard Dyke, deceased, Jr., deceased, Bobby, Kelly Witten's mom in Bardo, Mark and Sharon Fowler, Angie for a job, people of Tibet and Syria, Millie Schreiber,
Buddy Henderson, David Merritt, Sharon Jackson,
Jerry,
Adam Brownstein, Jerry Edgington, Lynn. We have a prayer that's associated with the conclusion of practice that we can add tonight. It's on page 30. It's a profound teaching which slowly, hopefully, will emerge. Things, sounds, minds are God's mantras, true forms, kayas, and wisdom in endless play. Through this profound and secret practice, be one with the one taste heartig lay. So we are here tomorrow. We'll be talking about the whole path, and in particular, the practice of refuge in bodhicitta. And so we welcome you. It's from 11 to 1. It's very, very important teaching and practice. So we would encourage you to be here if you can be. Thank you all.
Okay.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.